Okay, we are here with Cindy Veit, and we are excited to really just kind of dig in, hear a little bit about Cindy's story and journey into the land of HomeVestors for the last couple of years. And so, Cindy, welcome to our Zoom conversation.
Thank you.
Good to have you. And we're in the middle of still this COVID situation, so we've learned how to use Zoom. And we're taking it to our advantage to share kind of some stories about franchisees and why they decided to do this thing called HomeVestors and why they think it makes sense for them and what would they share with others if they were considering the same kind of decision. So Cindy, before we get started, maybe just share a little bit about your career, what you did before HomeVestors.
Okay. I was a real estate investor, an experienced real estate investor before I joined HomeVestors. In fact, my husband and I bought our first property in 2004, and we bought several rentals. And in 2010, I started partnering with someone flipping properties, and it was just within the last 2 years that I joined HomeVestors. I actually looked it up. I went to SST in June of 2018, and I started marketing July of 2018. So I'm just, coming up around my 2-year anniversary with HomeVestors.
Okay.
But with my business, I was doing a lot of flipping houses, and a typical year would be 5, 6, 7, 8 properties.
And before we get into kind of where market you're in, what did you do before all that? You mentioned earlier that you worked with a big company.
So I quit my job at IBM in 2007. Was tired of the corporate world. We had owned several rentals by that time. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find out a way to make it in real estate because I didn't like corporate world. And it was my way to focus more time with my kids because back then I had young kids. Yes. And so it allowed me to work when I wanted to work and play when I wanted to play.
Gotcha. So you were tiring of the demands of the 9-to-5 environment. Did you travel at all or?
No,
okay,
not much.
And so you had young children and you were thinking, okay, there's got to be another way I can make an income.
Right.
Okay. And at first, you guys delved into some rental properties just for long-term investment properties in the Raleigh area. Is that right?
Yes.
So tell everybody where you live and where you work, because that's a really interesting thing.
So the rental properties that we bought are in Wake County, and I live in Wake County. I live in Cary, North Carolina, and most of the properties that we bought are in the Raleigh area. In 2010, I partnered with a gentleman in Fayetteville, and I was a lender on a deal. And it was through this deal, the lending didn't go so well because I ended up not making as much money as I thought, but it put me in touch with a great broker there. And Fayetteville's anywhere from an hour and a half from where I live. And he's like, well, there's deals here. There's just no money. We don't have many investors here. So back in 2010, I started working with him flipping properties in Fayetteville. So not where I live, but it's where I invest.
I see. So what were some of the issues that you wrestled with when you were thinking about that? I mean, clearly you had to travel a little bit to get to your market. You were not familiar with the market, right? You never lived there. So what are some of the issues surrounding living somewhere else than where you're primarily doing business?
So the gentleman I partnered with, he was a real estate broker, and he would find the deals, I would fund the deals, and then we'd split things 50-50. And it worked out great. We're doing 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals a year. And then all of a sudden he got deployed. I was like, oof, there goes that, little cash cow that I had going. And, I'm like, told my husband, I'm like, well, there goes that. He's like, why? I'm like, well, because the houses are in Fayetteville and I live here. He's like, so you own a car? And he's like, you can do it. I'm like, but it's in Fayetteville. He's like, you own a car. And so, um, I worked with another broker, and I was getting all my leads, off the MLS, and that's how I was buying. And I've been there 10 years.
Wow. So that is fascinating. You were able in that 10-year time frame to find deals that would pencil off the MLS.
Yes. Yep. It was Fayetteville. Like he said, there wasn't much money there, but there were deals there. And Fayetteville is a town, it's a military town. It's where Fort Bragg is. So it's one of the largest military bases, if not the largest military base in the United States. So there's a lot of VA foreclosures because people buy the house with basically 105% financing. And then they get PCS, they get moved to a different base. And then they realize that they haven't done any updates to their house. They've been there for 3 years and they have zero equity. And so the foreclosure rate is just huge there.
Now, what have you seen in, say, the last 3 or 4 years? What was the impetus? Because clearly you had a successful business. What was the impetus to take a look at HomeVestors? What happened?
So in 2016, 17 area, there started to become an influx of investors. And so I wanted to buy more houses, but I wasn't finding the deals. And if I found a deal, it wasn't at the margins that I wanted. So I found myself paying more money for a house and just taking bigger risk. And I was paying for a lead service and I wanted more leads, but they couldn't give me more leads. I couldn't spend more money and they would get more leads. It was just, this is what's coming in and this is what you got. And there was no way for me to increase that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do that.
Right. So how did you hear about HomeVestors?
I met Adam Schneider many, many years ago at a TRIA meeting. And I really never knew what HomeVestors was. I met Wayne and Becky. Never really thought much about HomeVestors at all. But then you guys had like a come find out what HomeVestors meeting was.
Discovery Day.
Yeah, and I did, and it was very eye-opening to me. And before I joined HomeVestors, Wayne and Becky wholesaled me a property, and I was shocked at what they bought the house for. And I flipped the house, and I myself, I think, made $30,000. And then I was looking at what they bought it for. I'm like, if they would have flipped it, they would have made, 30 plus their wholesale fee, which was still a good like $14,000, $15,000, $16,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they buy the property this low? And then I just kind of started looking more and more at Wayne and Becky's numbers. And I'm like, wow, they can really buy low. And what's the secret? So I knew that my leads, I couldn't increase my marketing. I'm a team of one. So I work by myself, but I don't have any employees. I wanted to increase my marketing, but I was stumbling with what's my website going to say? What's my message going to say? Who am I going to mail to? How often am I going to mail to? Who's going to, put the stamps on the letters and, lick the envelopes and because I started looking into like buying names from probate and, buying these lists. And it's like, who's going to do all this? And who's the mastermind behind that? I'm like, and I started really researching it. I'm like, it's exhausting, to try to come up with all that on my own. I'm like, I like to go buy the houses and manage the projects. Funny thing is I have a degree in marketing. I didn't want to do all that marketing stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you have a marketing degree, but you didn't want to be a marketer.
Right.
Yeah. So those are different businesses, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the deal analysis and the buying versus the getting the seller to call you. Those are two different businesses.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. So tell us how you went from buying a wholesale property and kind of getting your appetite whetted by how much money Wayne and Becky made from that Fayetteville wholesale deal to you, to deciding, hey, I actually want to join this brand. I mean, what kind of process did you go through to get there?
So it was kind of almost a family decision. And I kept teetering, like, do I want to do this? Don't I? Do I want to do this? We had just bought a place in the mountains that had taken a lot of my cash up because I wasn't planning on buying a HomeVestor franchise. And I'm like, oh, and the price was going to go up. And so you needed to, join. And
the price to buy a franchise.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I knew that it was going to go up. And one of the things that I really liked about HomeVestors is that you build the business and then I have something to pass on to my children. It's still there. And so I'm now a full franchise, and it's something that if my daughters move to, Tampa or somewhere, that they can probably move the franchise there. And it's something that they can take with them. And it's something that I can pass on, and it's something that's going to have value at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Besides
the real estate. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But the franchise has value in it itself.
Yeah. So tell everybody about what your business consists of. Are you simply rehabbing? Are you wholesaling? Are you keeping any more rentals?
And
you're looking at your board. Is that what you're looking at?
I am looking at my board, yes. Okay. And today is May 19th, and we're in the year of COVID. And as of April 15th, I had bought 9 houses.
Okay.
So
from January 1 to May of 2020.
Right. Yeah. I haven't bought any since April 15th, but then COVID happened. Great. But so I had bought 9 houses. And of those houses, so I've sold 10, and of those 10 that I've sold, only 2 have been flips. And so my mix of my business has shifted a lot. So 8 of those were wholesales, and I've learned to do different wholesaling. I always thought wholesale was, find another investor that wants to buy it. But what I've been doing is I've been buying them steep enough where I take the property and maybe I'll trim the bushes, do a little bit of stuff, $1,000, $2,000 worth of stuff, and then put it on the MLS. And I found out that my profit's a lot greater that way.
So more of a wholesale model. I mean, a wholesale model.
Correct.
Okay. So part retail, part wholesale. You're not really improving it much. And your holding costs go down, right?
Correct. And one of the properties that I wholesaled, technically wholesaled, I mean, there was a hole in the roof. There was holes in the floors. The windows were all broken. There were vines growing in the house. And, I don't want that property, and it's an ugly house, but I put, buyer and seller together and, made a deal, made it happen. So that was stuff I would never do before. I would never look at this ugly piece of, house and think that it could make money.
Sure. So would you say then, I don't want to put words in your mouth, would you say then that being a part of HomeVestors helped you create more exit strategies?
Absolutely. Exit strategies that I never would even conceive of.
Right.
Getting properties under contract that I would never conceive of.
I see. Excellent. So if you kind of take all of that, what are some of the, if you could think through some of the key differences of kind of being in business for yourself as a successful real estate investor, versus being a part of a brand family? What are the key differences in your mind that you say, okay, this is the way I did it before, this is the way I'm doing it now, and you distill down the biggest ones? What are those?
Being part of the HomeVestor team, we all work together and we all share experiences. And, at one of the meetings you talked about Eric, who's another franchisee, you talked about how he had his vision board and how you really liked it. Well, then I called Eric up and said, hey, Eric, Ron said you had a really good vision board. Can I come and do lunch? And then I told Chandra, hey, I'm doing lunch with Eric today. And Chandra's like, I want to go. I'm like, well, I'm meeting with him in 45 minutes. If you want to join me. She's like, yeah, I'll be there. And then my friend Mark, he was another franchisee. He's like, can I join you too? And so literally 3 of us went to Eric's office and met with him so we can see his, vision board that you had talked about in one of your meetings. And so I really like the team environment. And so just last week, I went to go see a property, and I had brought another franchisee with me because he wanted to see how I did buy calls. And so after the meeting, I didn't quite know exactly what the best approach was. And we called you and we put you on speaker. We first called Adam. He didn't answer. So then we called Ron. Ron answered. And then we put you on speaker. And, we're both sitting there taking notes with what you had to say. And, that was really exciting to just be able to pick up the phone, call you. And then later we're still driving around, and then Adam returned our call. And then we spent another, 15, 20 minutes on the phone with Adam and kind of rehash this, but this plus another thing. Mm-hmm. And I've paid for several guru sessions, mastermind things. And you pay for a mentor program and you pay, $8,000 and you get 6 months of mentoring. And then after that, it goes away. It's gone. I'm like, oh my gosh, this HomeVestor thing, like the mentoring thing, it's there all the time. And right. So it doesn't expire. They're there. And I called Adam earlier today about a question and about owner financing. He's like, you know who you should call? You should call this guy in Knoxville. He does a lot of owner financing. So this is a guy that I've met several times at the convention. And hey, Jamie, how you doing? Tell me about what you've done with owner financing. And it's just great to be able to call anyone around the country and they'll, be able to help you or try to help you. And you're not competing against them. They all want each other to succeed.
Sure. That is powerful. I completely agree with you. So wait, before we move on from the call last week, did you buy that house?
I did. I got it under contract, and it was, something that a lead that I got 2 years ago.
Wow.
So,
wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
That'll be a good one. And my broker walked through the house today, and it has an extra 150 square feet that's not on the tax record.
Little bonus.
Yeah.
Little bonus. That's awesome. So you might have answered this question, but I'm just curious if there's anything else that you would share that comes to mind. But when you thought about joining HomeVestors, and now that you've been in for a couple of years, what kind of maybe surprised you, maybe pleasantly surprised you about being a franchisee, being kind of part of this group versus kind of what you thought about before?
I think the brand really helps. I never really knew that. But in our area, we do billboards, and HomeVestors, I think people see when they're driving along the interstates, they might see a billboard, maybe in Dallas, maybe, in Florida, wherever. But that national brand, I didn't realize how much it helps you. Because someone has heard of HomeVestors somewhere. And that's actually one of the reasons why that I got this contract last week is I said I'm not going anywhere. I've been around for 2 years, in their eyes. Our company's been around over 20 years. We're not going anywhere. We're still buying houses, and we're still buying houses in these trying times that we're in right now. And I actually wasn't the highest offer. I forgot to tell you that one too.
Wow. So how much, do you know how much under you were the other investor?
My guess is $2,000 or $4,000, $2,000 to $4,000.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's great. So do you chalk that up to the trust that the brand instilled in the seller? Do you chalk it up to the way you were able to process the seller's questions? What do you chalk that up to?
Okay, don't share the secret, but I kind of chalk it up to Ron, honestly.
Okay.
Because one time we did lunch and you showed me a sheet that you hand to sellers, and I used that sheet, and then
I know what you're talking about.
yep,
Okay.
that, and then the coaching that you gave me, I wrote it all down, and when I returned their call, I used a lot of the stuff that we had talked about. And so, yeah, I owe you a beer, dude.
Very good. I'll take you up on that sometime. That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So just curious, I don't know. I mean, we don't have to talk too deep about this, but I'm curious, when you look at your physical and financial results, whether it's the number of buys, whether it's the profit per buy, your margin percentage, whatever, however you track your business, in terms of the metrics you use to say, I'm doing a good job, I'm doing a bad job, I'm doing better than I was, I'm not doing as well as I was. What do those look like for, say, last year, 2019?
So if I'm just looking at profit numbers, what I made in 2019, I made up in the first 4 or 5 months of 2020. And I had my best year in 2019.
Okay,
ever.
so if I understand correctly, so in the 10 years roughly you've been a full-time investor, your best year as an investor from a profit standpoint was in 2019?
Correct.
And you're saying that you've beat 2019 January through May of 2020?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've had a really good year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
So you're taking the rest of the year off, or what are you doing?
Well, the state's finally opening up, so we are going to the mountains this weekend.
Okay, very good.
But the other thing also is that I haven't bought a rental property in 10 years. We bought all those when I first, started, 2004. Between 2004 and 2008 was when we were buying our rentals. I haven't bought a single rental since 2008. And so last year we added 3 properties to our rental portfolio. So that is something else that HomeVestors has, got me doing. I'm now buying them in Fayetteville, which are more cash flow plays than they are appreciation. But I need to start expanding my portfolio again, which I'm excited to do. And I can really have the goal of buying 4 properties a year and achieving that.
So your goal for 2020 is to have adding 4 rentals of the number of properties that you buy.
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent. That's great. So if you're thinking about giving advice to somebody calls you and said, listen, what's up with this whole HomeVestors thing? I don't particularly like the caveman, I think you guys are overrated. I can do all this on my own. There's plenty of successful investors that do this on their own. What would you say to them as to why you think being a part of a brand is a wise decision?
So you've got the brand, so you have the brand recognition, but you also have the national marketing that they do. So Fayetteville got hit with a really bad hurricane, about a year or so ago, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And so what was great is that HomeVestors has experience of dealing when Houston had the huge flooding that they had. And this is how they handled the marketing, and this is what they experienced. And this is, so you've got all that on a national level. They're taking their expertise from marketing across all the states. This is what we've seen when a national disaster happens. This is what we see when, things change. And I'm not going to know that if I'm paying for marketing in just my own little world.
Right.
So that's what the brand brings to you, is experience and years of experience. We're not just talking like, oh, last year or the year before. We're talking 20, 25 years of experience that they've had. And especially like with COVID-19, we've got people that are working on changing our messaging. And it would be different if I was a team of one spending $5,000 and I want to change my marketing. This is a team of, 1,500 people and millions of dollars of marketing. How are we going to change our messaging? A lot more attention is spent on that. To come up with the right words, and how do you market to people during this time? Do you market during this time? And, a lot of calls evolved around, the crisis that we're in right now. And a lot of advice came on, how to handle this situation, which you're not going to get being a team of one.
Sure. So what I think I hear you saying is being a real estate investor can be a very lonely business. You're on your own, you get your own business, and you have a micro approach to the business, the leads that you're getting in, the market that you're in, and it doesn't really afford you an opportunity to network or get the collective understanding for what's going on in the nation, what's going on in the industry, what's going on with lenders. And so you feel like you're connected to a broader, sort of like a McDonald's franchisee, in Apex, North Carolina, though he's got a whole brand behind him where he can get the collective intelligence of all the franchisees and what are the best practices and what the markets are saying and doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what I hear you saying?
Absolutely.
So that's one piece of advice. Something else that you would say to somebody who is considering learning more about HomeVestors?
I feel like I drive a lot and I talk on the phone a lot because, it's my way to pass time. I can call another investor, let's say outside of the HomeVestor network, and they're going to give so much information, where I kind of feel like people are a little bit more guarded about what they're doing, how they're getting deals and kind of things, because I'm their competition. Where with HomeVestors, when we're talking amongst ourselves, we're not each other's competition. We're each other's cheerleaders. And that is just something that is great. When people take time out of their day to help you get a deal, help you make a good decision. I called Adam last week, hey, should I keep this as a rental property? Yes or no? Boom. He said, no. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to keep it as a rental property. I mean, it was just that easy. I just gave him the facts. He's like, no, just flip it. Okay. Which,
right.
He's helping me. And I love that help that you get. Even though I'm an experienced investor, I'm still learning how to buy the rental properties and not sure when to buy and hold and when to flip. Because I'm always flip.
Yeah, well, you can't be an expert all the time in every aspect of the business.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit of tunnel vision when you're in a business, oftentimes by yourself, or you're the leader of the business. And so to have other business operators who are successful in the business and doing this every day, just getting that 360 input is really so helpful. I did something similar just last evening. Long story short, I had a deal of 4 properties that I was looking at, and I just found myself getting some tunnel vision over that. And I was getting in the hunt, getting closer to perhaps working something out with the seller. And I just sent it out to 3 other, franchisees who I really respect. And I got this amazing amount of input that just clarified, it just crystallized what my next steps needed to be.
Right.
And I can't say, I don't know if I'll get the deal or not, but to me, it was just so reassuring of what my strategy needed to be. Whereas on my own, I'm just not going to be an expert all the time.
Right.
And so that I completely agree with your assessment there. I have one question, if we can back up to the fact that you live in Wake County, but you do business in Cumberland County. So it's an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes away. Share with folks mechanically, how do you manage that? Because some people watching this might not live in Raleigh, but they want to do business in Raleigh, might not live in Greenville, North Carolina, but they want to do business in Greenville. How do you manage that? Tell us your schedule, routine, your typical schedule.
So it didn't happen overnight. You gotta kiss a lot of toes before you get your prints. I have a good crew that I work with where I don't have to go and manage my rehabs. I don't have to go there every day. It's the same stuff, different house. So a rehab for me is it's not complicated. So that takes a lot of my burden off of me. I have a broker that handles all of my listings. I've got my people in place, my landscaper, my HVAC, my GC, the person that takes the pictures. I've got all that in place. What I primarily go down to Fayetteville for is for my buy calls. And I usually just schedule it twice a week. And now, with COVID-19, my leads are slowed down. But I'm going down to Fayetteville just for fun. It's like gets me out of the house.
Car.
Yeah.
But okay.
I just will go twice a week, and that's what I limit myself to. And then the other days I spend following up on leads, managing the projects, and looking for the next deal.
It's awesome. Cindy, this has been great. I've learned a lot. Anything else that you would want to share with folks who are watching this, who are trying to figure out their next step and what they're going to do in their real estate career?
I'm thoroughly glad that I joined HomeVestors. It was the best decision for me. I came into HomeVestors with a lot of knowledge. I had teams in place. So I did have all that coming in. So therefore, when the leads started coming in, I was able to hit the ground running. I didn't have to come up with an attorney or a broker or any of that. I had all that. And so HomeVestors just gave me, the jetpack to catapult my business. And so that's what's great. But the thing is it also allows me to balance, what do I want to do? If I want to bump up the marketing, I could be like some, bazillionaire, or I can just keep it where I'm at. I'm only spending $5,000 a month in advertising. And that's the level that I feel comfortable with. True. That's what keeps me at a busy level that I want to be at.
Well, you've bought a lifestyle business in this stage of your life because you still have family you want to spend time with. And so you've been able to customize the volume of your business for what you want. What I'm hearing you say. Yep. That's awesome. Well, thanks for spending time with us today. And I know you've kind of shared a few nuggets for everybody else. So I'm going to stop the recording now and then we'll talk offline.
Okay. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks. Okay. Uh-oh. Let's see what I did here. All right.